how does one actually test watches? Welcome back everyone to another episode, and today I'd like to show you how I test watches and see if they fit to me and my lifestyle. So welcome to my kitchen, and today's wristwatch that is going to be tested is my trusty Omega Speedmaster Reduced. I've been doing a couple of Omega videos, so I figured why not do another one, but I want to show you how I test watches and see if they fit to me, well, more specifically my lifestyle. So yeah. Wearing watches has changed a little bit. We are opening up again much more than we used to 2 years ago or last year even. Wearing watches, for me at least, has become a bit different. I wear most of my watches at home, so they have to fit my lifestyle at home. For example, like here, if I'm enjoying a meal, I sometimes use the chronograph function to time my egg perfectly right. So how do I test the watches that I get? Well, or that I want to buy myself? How do I test them and feel them out to see if there's something for me? Well, one or two things that I notice is, one of the two things that I do is I wear them for a certain amount of time in my home to see how it feels on the wrist, because you don't get the feeling when just putting it on for a couple of seconds and then taking it off again. Things like weight and movement on the wrist are some things that I take note of, because at times, of course, when you're loading the dishwasher or putting some stuff in the washing machine or hanging up clothes or making food, well, if your watch doesn't sit on the wrist at precisely the point where you want it to sit, well, then you might have a scratch, maybe even break the glass. And I am left-handed, so I wear my watch on my left and most active hand, and therefore it has to sit perfectly. And that's where I also feel out the right straps, have them fitted to me most of the times, because I don't want that the watch moves around too much, because of course I don't want it to get too many scratches, and I certainly don't want to have it shatter the glass. So I turned to you on Instagram, you guys, and asked you what you think are the most viable features you use. And the most common mention was waterproof. And while I do understand that in certain situations you want your watch to be waterproof, I still don't think that all of us will take our watch diving or have the need for 300-meter water resistance. Nevertheless, I do totally understand that wearing a watch that has a certain water resistancy is definitely a bare minimum, because in terms of wearing your watches in the environment where you wear them, for example, for me, where I wear my watches at home a lot, in certain situations when cleaning, for example, it is quite helpful if the watch is water resistant. And then, of course, when it comes to washing your hands and all these things, then certainly the watch should definitely be able to handle that. Other situations and other features mentioned were shock resistancy. And again, here I do think that this is a very, very important thing, because especially when wearing a watch all day, for me, if I wear it at home, maybe doing some laundry or even loading my dishwasher, then of course the watch should handle certain shocks. If you have kids, for example, I'm pretty sure that you like a shock resistance feature in your watch as well, because you never know what happens and you cannot expect anything. So therefore, I do believe that that is a very viable option as well. Another mention was an anti-magnetic feature. And of course, while we are around a lot of electronic devices that have magnetic fields, if you're working at home a lot, having your watch next to your laptop, for example, these things can have an effect on the movement, and therefore it's always quite nice to have an anti-magnetic shielding or even anti-magnetic features in the watch. For me, these are also the most important features that I look for. I'm not that specific. I do sometimes wear watches that, or quite a lot actually, that aren't necessarily water resistant or that are vintage and don't really have any shock resistancy. But as I'm only wearing them at home and can be very careful, that's okay. I am a left-handed person, and therefore wearing my watch on my left hand can be somewhat difficult sometimes, because all the things I put up, I put down, I carry around, or if I reach into a cupboard, for example, I always do that with my left hand, and therefore at some points scratches are imminent on my watches, and I just have to live with that feature. Although I try to be very careful as well. It's a very fun time actually to be reviewing watches, because of course I'm not that type of guy that goes outside and goes mountain biking, for example, with a watch. Most of the time spent, I try to reflect on where I would wear the watch and how I would wear the watch. So if it's, for example, a watch that is very waterproof, and if I tend to take it for a swim or even in summer on my summer vacation, then there might be an opportunity to wear it in the water as well. But usually I don't do that. And for the other aspects, look at what features I personally like when wearing it at home. The most important thing for me is how the watch looks and how it feels on the wrist. And one thing that I have noticed in the last couple of months actually, when wearing a lot of different kinds of watches, is how the watches sit on my wrist. And as I already mentioned, wearing my watch on my left hand can create a couple of difficulties when it comes to scratches, and therefore having the watch sit at one specific point on your wrist is very helpful, because then I can think about where my watch sits and always have in mind where the watch is going to be if, for example, I reach into a cupboard and pull things out, having not to care that much about scratches. Well, that being said, when it comes to scratches, there are always kinds of cases and different kinds of materials that handle scratches very nicely. For example, ceramic is a very, very viable material that is being used, which is very, very scratch resistant. So therefore, I'm pretty sure that we will see a lot of these types of materials in the future as well, because a lot of people are spending their time at home more than they used to, and therefore also the usage of watches has changed a little bit at least. That being said, this is everything for today. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and please do leave me a feedback in the comments down below. I'd be happy to hear how you use your watches. As always, if you feel like it, put a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.